You're listening to Real Talk Texas with local expert Steve Hakes. Now, here's Steve.
Welcome back to Real Talk Texas. Today we have in the studio, we have the true privilege of having Nick and Julie Bristow in the studio to talk about house flipping, and it's something that's been, I guess, on my wife Dana and I, we watch these shows all the time, HGTV, and a really cool thing about having them in our studio today is that they're actually going to be doing a show, and they're taping it now, then it'll start to air in the fall of 2013 on HGTV about house flipping in the Dallas-Fort Worth market. And it's that, as well as their real estate business and the fact that they're growing a family with 5 children and a blended family. So I think it's going to be a must-see, and when they're ready to come on, I'll make sure that I let our listeners know that you've been in the studio, and we'll have you back in that time.
Okay, good.
So I've been watching this house flipping show, and I think, okay, I can do that. Mm-hmm. And we've heard earlier today from you guys on what cautions to take and things like that. But let's talk about 2013. We know, as lenders, that there's a lot of homes that are being held in the special assets, okay, yes, within the banks and things like that. That can be a bank-owned property. That can be maybe a pre-foreclosure, or maybe it's one of these where people have tried to go through a loan modification and it's drug out for a year. Mm-hmm. Or it could be that it's a HUD or an FHA-owned property that's getting ready to hit the market, and HUD has been holding some of those off the market right now. It's an election year. And it's also not only an election year. I think it's a very prudent way to make sure that those homes that aren't distressed don't lose value very fast. And I've been to some industry conferences recently with the Mortgage Bankers Association, and we've talked about that. We've had speakers talking about controlling the flow of properties that hit the marketplace, and that they don't crush a neighborhood by putting all these foreclosed properties on the market right away. Way to do it. It is, and I think it's responsible from the bank standpoint, from the government standpoint, to make sure that we don't totally destroy a real estate market, which is vital to our economy here in the United States. So let's talk about 2013. What do you think? What's going to happen as far as the opportunities for house flipping here in the Metroplex?
Put your seatbelt on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah?
It's going to be I think it's going to be an interesting year in real estate. I think the price point of flips is going to start moving up. Mm-hmm. The reason being, Fannie Mae, HUD, Bank of America, Freddie Mac all have these really strong initiatives, first look initiatives and things like that, where they're trying to get owners back in homes. But the reality is, in that price point, and the majority of REOs generally below $100,000, and in that price point home, there's less qualified buyers. And a lot of the homes are in conditions that preclude them from being lendable. So what ends up happening, there are hundreds of investors buying up rental properties, and these entire subdivisions are slowly getting transformed into the whole neighborhood's a rental neighborhood. That price point is that below 100,000, generally below 70,000, and that's going to drive for flippers because you can't flip in a rental neighborhood. Your values are capped by rent rates.
Mm-hmm. Really?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And that goes back to what we talked about earlier today, and that was, what's your contingency plan, which is if it doesn't go well, I need to be able to rent it enough to pay my payment.
Right, exactly.
And hopefully have a little bit left over.
Right. And I will add that on a investment property from a lender standpoint, we look at things as a business too. So when we qualify somebody on an investment property or rental property, what we'll do is we'll take, let's just say you rent it for $1,000 a month. Well, we're going to allow for 25% vacancy. So we're going to give you credit for $750 in income. So if your payment's $1,000 and you're renting it for $1,000, everybody thinks they're good. But from a lender's standpoint, we look for what happens if somebody moves out. Okay, so we want to protect you, and so that we really, in our eyes, you're losing $250 a month on that deal.
And that's reality.
It is. Yep. That you're going to sit there vacant for some time. And probably in single-family homes, you get a 30-day notice. It's not like you've got a rental office with people just streaming in all the time, websites and all those things like the apartment communities. So finding a new renter may be a little more difficult, so that's why we allow for the 25% vacancy.
And when you're vacant, you're prone to vandalism. And that's another big problem.
That is
with
That's
the
a
vacant
very
homes.
big problem right now.
Okay. So we've got these investors out there. Are they real estate investment trusts? Are they hedge funds? Who's coming in and trying to buy up these groups of properties from the banks?
The most recent one we've been talking with is a hedge fund, and they want to close 60 to 80 homes a month in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and these are for rental. And their cash flow rate's pretty low, around 8%. That is going to cause, in my opinion, a lot of problems in a lot of neighborhoods because it's going to keep owners out. Pride of ownership tends to go down on these homes. So the owners that are there, they lose values. Those end up getting foreclosed. Those go to investors as more rentals. So that whole subdivision becomes like a giant rental subdivision. When
you talk to the hedge funds, Nick, are they telling you that they're looking to buy and hold forever, or is they're in there for 5 years, or what's the deal?
The magic number I'm hearing is 8 to 10 years. Then they're going to sell out.
Okay. So 8 to 10 years from now, they'll buy a portfolio maybe of 100 houses, or like you said, 60 in a month. Julia, you'll help them find those houses.
Absolutely.
And so you guys are teaming up with a hedge fund to go out and buy 60 houses for rent.
Correct.
And so when that happens in that marketplace, what I hear you saying is that it's going to maybe keep the values down.
It's not a maybe, it's happening.
Okay.
That's why I'm saying 2013, I think it's going to be a transitional year, especially if you're flipping homes, because you're going to have to move your price point up. You're going to have to accommodate homeowners, owner occupants. That's who's going to buy your house. I think that price point's going to keep scooting back up.
And most homeowners are going to want to live in a neighborhood where the other people are homeowners as well.
Correct. Absolutely. Right. Absolutely.
Okay. So where do you see the price point going? As an entry-level flipper, I would be thinking, okay, I can do $50,000 and try to sell it for $100,000, and that gives me some wiggle room in case there's something goes bad. Mm-hmm. So now am I looking at 150, 200, 500? Where do you see the opportunities, and also what areas of town?
I'm seeing good opportunities in North Oak Cliff. Is a very strong market, but a very competitive market. Some of the outlying areas of North Oak Cliff away from Kessler are, like in Sunset Hills, are up-and-coming areas, which are good. Midway Royal area, Prestonwood, where we live, is a great area to pick up properties because of the school districts.
Lake Highlands as well.
Yeah, Lake Highlands is very good.
And then the usual Plano, Frisco.
Yep.
And for our listeners out there, what kind of price point are you talking about?
Those range from $120,000 to $400,000. Is that and a little bit higher is that price range. It's just gonna be tough to find flips until
that's why you call me.
That's why you call Julia. That's what we do. I mean, that's what we do for a living. Is if you call us and say, hey, I want to start flipping properties, I'll say, hey, let's go have coffee, sit down, let's talk about what you want to do. Let's see if you have a legitimate plan, and we kind of start putting the puzzle together.
Okay, so in watching the TV shows, is there a margin or percentage I should expect? Or, yeah, I know it varies, depends on how each project goes, but let's just say I can buy a $300,000 house that, if, in your opinion, Julie, and I would lean on you for that, if we put $20,000 in it, it can be worth $400,000. Are those type of deals out there? I mean, what kind of margin, what's a reasonable expectation for profit?
I think 10 to 15%.
10 to 15%
is reasonable. If you're waiting for the home run, you'll never buy a house. You win a game with base hits.
Right.
And that's the same with flipping.
But the deals are definitely out there. You're going to find homes that are overpriced, but you're going to find that gem of a house that is priced so low, and you know exactly what you have to do to it, and you can really make some good money on it.
I've got a good one coming up.
Those deals are absolutely there.
I've got a good house coming up in Les Jardins neighborhood, which is going to be a great flip property for somebody. It's not on the market yet. It's going to be probably another 2 months, but it's going to be a good property.
Okay, and if you want to know about that property, go to realtalktexas.com. I'm your host, Steve Hakes. Just send me a quick email through going to realtalktexas.com, click on Contact Me, and I'll put you in touch with Nick Bristow, and he can lead you to the house when it goes on the market. So
you bet.
You mentioned the other thing. I had Judy Jones, and she's in the South Lake area. And Judy was on the show a few weeks ago, and she was talking about homes that were selling, getting multiple offers, and that they were really only those that had been updated. And there's a lot of houses that have that 1990s look about it.
Right.
So I would think that would be an opportunity for a flipper. I'm not sure.
If the margin's there, you call us and we can kind of help calculate everything and to see what kind of a market it is.
All right. Well, I really appreciate you listening out there today. You've been listening to Real Talk Texas. We've been talking about flipping a house for profit, and we've had the pleasure of having Nick and Julie Bristow, Bristow Residential, and you can find them at bristowresidential.com or go to realtalktexas.com and reach out to me here. If you're thinking about getting into this business, I would feel more comfortable if I had some experts that were leading me along the way, and Nick and Julie are certainly those people. Stay tuned next week as we bring in a new topic, and the new topic is how to protect your assets. And so we'll be talking about that next week, so we'll see you next Sunday as well.
This program is brought to you by the Real Estate Radio Network. Visit realestateradio.us for more info. That's realestateradio.us.